Hello and welcome to another episode of MÖRK BORG Solo. So, on this session, before I started, I wanted to go over the Oracle. It's mostly the same as how it used to be, but I made a minor change in that instead of using modifiers for likely or unlikely, I'm just using 2d20 if likely and pick the highest, and if unlikely, roll 2d20 and pick the lowest. Everything else stays largely the same. If very likely or unlikely, I will use a 3d20 and, do the same thing there. But that will probably not be the case for most of the rolls anyway. So let's do a little bit of a recap. What do we find out in the previous session? We found out that Spyker was actually imprisoned because of him leading a charge into this sacred site in order to try to reclaim it from the cult of the pregnant bull. And we also found out that he is loyal to his cause to a fault, almost getting killed the last session by one of his own cult members who was going delirious from hunger and almost bit into him. We know he cares a lot about his people. What we don't know is what Naplam and Rebar need to do in order to fulfill the prophecy, so to speak. In order for Naplam to get rid of the god in his neck, and for Rebar to rid himself of his debt, which he accrued by killing a wretched royalty, and that caused him to gain cataract in his eyes, and will cause him to go blind very soon. We have also found 2 special rooms out of the 4 special rooms in the crypt. I think at this point, Naplam and Rebar decide that they are going to take a break, partially because of their lower hit points, especially for Naplam, but mostly to ask Spyker a few more questions that they were not able to ask before. Namely, what is it that they have to do in order to wrest control away from the cult of the pregnant bull? What do they have to do in order to fulfill the end of their bargain to the 7 women with black eyes? Does Spyker know? This is almost definitely a yes. So I'm going to roll 2d20 and I'm going to pick the higher one. Oh my god, Spyker does not know. Okay, this has thrown me for a bit of a loop, because I assumed that Spyker would know, being one of the higher-ups in his cult. I think it's something that he will only be able to find out once he enters the heart of the crypt, once they are able to enter the final room. Then they'll know for certain what they would have to do. I think one thing's for sure, the thing that they find in the final room will connect all of their fates together. But before we forget, I think we're gonna take a break for Naplam and Rebar, and they are going to catch a breath. That's going to be a DR9 presence with 2d20. So we're gonna check that firstly for Naplam. Let's see. He's able to pass it no problem, and he is able to, let's see here, strong hit. So he rolls d4 HP. He gets 4 HP back, so that's very, very good actually. That means that he gets back to full. What about Rebar? Let's see here. That is going to be a weak hit. So that's going to be d2/d4 HP. But that's no problem. We don't even need to roll because just 1 is enough to bring him back up to max hit points. And we should be okay. We also need to roll a d6 in order to see whether we reveal the danger because we wasted some time. So if we get a 1, oh, we got a 1! Okay, so what danger do we actually find? Roll a d6. Let's see here. 5. Torch/lamp oil is used. Oh no. Okay, so we have 4 torches in all. One of them is going to be used up. I'm going to say the one held by Rebar. So a gust of wind comes by and blows out one of his torches. He's now down to 1 torch. Spyker has 2 torches as well, but I think just for safekeeping, we're actually going to distribute that 2 torches to Naplam as well. And the reasoning for this is in case Spyker dies or we have to leave him behind or something, it might be prudent to have the torches for everyone to carry. We're also going to have to roll a d6 two more times actually, because we are backtracking through these two rooms here. So we're gonna roll one more time, we're safe, and another time, and we are fine. So we are now in this room here, the room where we found, I believe, the black amulet. So if you recall from the previous episode, the black amulet gives us a +2 to our dungeon discovery roll, and we also get a +1 from the clue that we got from the person in the cell that we freed. And we get a +2 because we have discovered 2 special rooms. That comes up to a total of +5. So we're going to do a 2d20 roll, and we're going to add a +5 to each, and it has to go over 10. Oh my god, that is terrible luck. So we got 2 2s. So even with a +5 to each, we encounter a danger. We reveal some sort of danger as we're exiting this room. So what danger is that? Holy shit, that's really bad luck. You're gonna roll another d6 here, and we got a 2. A locked door or environmental obstruction. So we already know that this place is starting to decay, so it could be that, or it could be a locked door. I'm gonna ask the oracle, is the door locked? So 15, we can use that as our difficulty rating as well. So actually we don't have any lockpicks. I think the only thing we can do is to bash the door down. So how we're gonna do it is this. The person with the highest strength, actually I'm gonna say Rebar and Spyker both try to do it. I'm gonna add their strength together. They're gonna try to bash the door down together. So I'm gonna say a +2 to their strength roll. And if they get a strong hit, they get to get inside. If they get a weak hit, they get to get inside, but they make some noise. And if they get a failure, they make noise and are unable to do it. So let's see. So that's a 15 to hit. So one of them barely passes and one of them barely fails. Okay, so we make some noise. So I'm gonna say this fairly loud. So it's gonna be on a d6. On a 1 to 2, a danger is revealed. Okay, thank God. Okay, so we are able to bash the door down. We do make some noise, but we're able to actually continue on forwards. So what is in this room? So we're gonna find a room adjective. 5, oppressive. So a very small, maybe claustrophobic. 4, kitchen, store, or nest. Okay. How about room exits? There is 1 exit. Okay. And as for room contents, it's gonna be 5. Something blocks your path. Okay, let's draw this out first. We have our room, and something blocks our way within here. What is that thing? Well, is that thing maybe related to the killed jailer? Because we're pretty far into the dungeon and we still haven't found what killed the jailer. I'm gonna say it's likely, just because we haven't run into any sign of that thing yet. So we're gonna roll 2d20 and pick the higher one. No! Okay, it has nothing to do with whatever killed the jailer. Some kind of obstruction. I don't really have any idea. So I think we're going to go to the solo rule set that I've made, and we're actually going to roll on the chaos portents right here. So let's see, what do we get? 28, that's going to be burn. 19, fear. Burn fear. Well, fear implies that it happens to one of our party members. So which one is it gonna be? Let's roll a d6. 1 to 2 is Naplam, 3 to 4 is Rebar, 5 to 6 is Spyker. Let's see. 5, it's Spyker. Burn fear. I think as they enter the room, they find a massive pile of corpses. And the corpses all appear to have been burnt by something. On closer inspection, and to Spyker's horror, they find that the corpses are of cultists of the Howling Lamb. They've all been burnt almost beyond recognition. but Spyker can recognize them from their garb, their cultist garb, and I don't think this pile of bodies is big enough to pose a physical obstruction, but it definitely causes Spyker to start breaking down. We already know that he is extremely loyal to his men, and this shakes him to his core. I think this is going to affect him in a fairly traumatic way. For the moment, I'm going to give him a -1 on any presence roll. Actually, let me make that a -2 to any presence roll. So I think Spyker breaks down and starts screaming at the top of his lungs. Naplam and Rebar have to rein him in, but he is going to make some noise. This shakes him so much that he is unable to think. And the question is, this place was a nest. Was it a nest to some kind of animal, perhaps? What burned these corpses, and is it still around? So I'm gonna see, does Spyker's screaming before Naplam and Rebar can stop him attract the attention of any would-be creature? So I think that's going to be likely, so I'm gonna give that 2d20 and I'm gonna pick the higher one. 16, yes. We find ourselves face to face with some kind of creature who, upon hearing Spyker's cries, comes charging back into the room. As for what a creature actually is, well, I actually have a system for making creatures using this rare monster generator, and I think that will be quite fitting for our current situation. Let me go get some cards and I'll be right back. Okay, I have some cards and I drew out 5 of them, and I'm going to draw the first card out of this small pile, and the first card will dictate the monster's overall look. So I get a tree, some kind of ogre. Okay, some kind of ogre. We know that it has the ability to do some kind of fire damage, and I also put a note here that if it really doesn't fit, select the next one. But I think an ogre can kind of work. What is its defining feature? So second card is also a tree. It has a human face. So it's an ogre, a very large, very monstrous being, but the face is very much that of a human. It's very, very strange. It's a giant of a man, and possibly maybe one of the cult of the pregnant bull's secret weapons, maybe? First and second cards also show the intention of the creature, so we got those two. So diamonds and spades. It eats to survive. Okay. So an ogre, or rather a giant of a man, who cannibalizes his own kind. Perhaps the cult of the pregnant bull supplies it with bodies, and it burns the bodies so that it can feast on them. Interesting. Okay, so card 3 will be HP and armor. So HP is the card number, minimum 2. If it is a face card, it is going to be -D2 armor. We have a face card, so face cards mean 10. So we have a creature with 10 HP and -D2 armor. That is not good. Morale, let's see here. Morale is a 9. Morale is the card number +5, which means that the monster will never ever surrender, because that results in a total of 12 or above. That is also very, very bad. Final card, 8. The attack is the closest damage die to the card number rounded up. D8 is the maximum, which means that this monster deals D8 damage. The third and fourth cards are basically the special. So that's going to be spades and clubs. And it has an area of effect that can target all players. I think this is a gigantic ogre with a gigantic flaming club. And I think can do a large swing that can destroy everybody at once. This is very, very bad. Just to emphasize how bad this is, this creature has the absolute max HP, the absolute max armor, the absolute max attack, and one of the best specials that I could possibly have gotten with the cards. So, how are we gonna deal with this? As Spyker is screaming and shouting, and Naplam and Rebar are trying to rein him in, trying to shut him up. You're gonna attract attention. You're gonna have the cult of the pregnant bull on us. Rebar yells at him, and there is a sudden giggle of sorts. Everybody falls silent, except for Spyker, who continues screaming. Naplam grabs at Spyker's mouth and tries desperately to silence him. We're going to do a strength check and see whether he can possibly get Spyker under control. He is able to successfully. Spyker makes nary a sound as this gigantic thing, this ogre almost, with matted hair, but a human-like face, barely visible by their torch's glow, enters the room. It must be over 3 meters, 4 meters tall. It is so large that it does not fit through the door. It bows its head down and squeezes through. And from this man-ogre, our party hears a giggle. It enters the room and each footstep can be heard thundering down the hallway. Even through the pile of corpses, our 3 adventurers can hear the man-ogre coming. And peeking through the small holes in the pile of corpses, they can see the face, an infantile face, an almost baby-like face on this huge hulking beast. And it asks with a almost innocent demeanor, "Have you brought me more food to play with?" Its eyes naturally lock onto Naplam, who is holding Spyker by the mouth, trying to get him under control. "Ah, another child of the Howling Lamb. Thank you for the meal." Naplam does not know how to respond. He slowly lets go of Spyker as the giant man-ogre, even now, peeks around the huge pile of human bodies. "One more for the pile, eh?" Naplam and Rebar look up at this giant monstrosity, and they look back at Spyker, still trembling, his back towards them, and they have second thoughts. And I know that Rebar slowly starts backing away. And I think that's where we'll call it for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll pick this up next time and see if our fellow adventurers betray each other horribly.